Welcome to episode 7 of the Hybrid Attorney Podcast. We are your hosts, Devin Thorpe and Austin Marler. I'm Devin Thorpe.
And I'm Austin Marler.
And do not be deceived by our unprofessional wardrobe. We are two practicing family law attorneys in the state of North Carolina. And for today's episode, we are going to be discussing love myths unpacked, meaning the myths or things that you heard said about relationships, marriage, dating, things of that nature, and whether or not the myths about it, like once a cheater, always a cheater, zodiac signs, stuff like that, if from our perspective as family law attorneys, we think they are correct or inaccurate, or whether we agree or disagree. Austin, over under 1 hour, 5 minutes for the length of this podcast.
I'm needing it to be the under on that by a lot. I would also like to preface this episode with this is not dating advice by either of us.
I wanna also preface it by saying that Austin did not want to do this topic. He kind of poo-pooed it when I pitched it, but I think that it's juicy and a fun thing to talk about. He does not agree with that.
I do think that Christina brought up a good point yesterday, saying that a female perspective would not be a terrible idea on a podcast like this one.
I agree. I was actually going to ask her to be on it, and then she wasn't feeling good today.
You want me to give her a quick FaceTime? Say, hop in. This is your one chance.
We get the crowd gets to listen to two overprivileged white men talking about dating advice.
An engaged male, a single male. If we could have just got like a married male, we could have hit a trifecta.
Oh, yeah. So that's going off of what Austin said. He is certainly no expert in the realm of dating as he is currently single, and I am getting married in 3 weeks. So I'm a little bit more qualified than he is, but probably not by much. I would say. If any of Austin's exes are watching this episode, feel free to leave a comment below telling us what your thoughts on his opinions are. With that said, we've got 22 myths about love, dating, and marriages. Total 11 for each of us. So let's hop into it. Austin, the saying, as a family law attorney, when you hear the saying, once a cheater, always a cheater, what goes through your head? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
I disagree with that. I know I said it in an earlier episode. Just kind of anytime there's any sort of statement that tries to make something absolute, like once a cheater, always a cheater, it's hard for me to get behind that whenever there's that absolute language included in it. So I'm going to go with no.
What is that quote from Revenge of the Sith, Star Wars, where Anakin's like, gosh, it's when he's like, if you're not with me, you're against me. And then Obi-Wan's like, mentions only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Yeah.
I'm glad I could remember that off the dome. I think I would agree with that. I do think that there's enough truth in that statement to support it being believable. But I do think if someone genuinely wants to change and puts in the necessary work to do so, that like someone who cheats once is not always going to be a cheater. But we obviously are. We both make our career in doing divorces and custody battles, and I'd be remiss to say that cheating isn't a deal breaker for some people, and some people are unable to reconcile with it or reunify their marriage after cheating enters a relationship. But I think if for some scenarios, if you gave a second chance, it would end up working out.
I agree with that. I see a lot of stuff with like reconciliation and people wanting to reconcile, and not even just with cheating, just with other life events that happen. I've even seen people who have went through the whole divorce process and then gotten remarried years later. So I don't think at any point or there's always going to, not always, there's going to be circumstances where people can reconcile or want to try things again. Uh, and some people just don't have like absolute deal breakers.
Yeah.
I got you a question. All right. Opposites attract versus birds of a feather flock together. Which one actually holds up?
I think, like you said, and this is probably going to end up being applicable for a lot of these, but it it literally
Depends.
it depends. Yeah, I think there are relationships, people that I'm friends with or whatever, where the two people dating are very different from their personality type, the things that they're interested in, their passions and hobbies, and they end up making it work because of just who they are as people. And there are relationships I know where it's almost as if the boyfriend girlfriend or boyfriend boyfriend whatever were raised under the same roof in terms of like they have the exact same interests in everything. What is that you're drinking? Is that piss?
Creatine.
No, it is not.
Well, Pinot Grigio.
Okay, all right, you get a pass. Why out of
Get
a mason
the
jar?
love. Get the. It's not a mason jar. My two wine glasses are dirty, so
Hazy IPA. Is that Sierra Nevada or New
yeah.
Belgium?
Well, yeah, Sierra Nevada. Well, Pinot Grigio to get the love and emotion so going.
All right, for the next one.
No, no, no. I'm not done with that topic.
All right, yeah, weigh in.
What would you say you and Christina are? Opposites or
We
birds of a
certainly
flock?
we certainly are not birds of a feather. Um, like it, so for those of you who don't know Christine and I's story, and I won't tell the whole thing, but we're not high school sweethearts because we didn't date in high school, but we've known each other and been friends since eighth grade. And I know her well enough to know, like, even the way that our minds work, it just is not the same. She was always very intelligent in the field of like mathematics and science and very good with numbers. And she's a physician's assistant now, which makes sense. I was always better at reading, writing, creativity, stuff like that. And I'm an attorney. The way that her and I view the world, I wouldn't say is opposite, but it is very far from the same. I think, and again, I'm not a dating or marriage expert, but I think that what's much more relevant than personality types or being opposite or being the same is just two people making the decision to make things work and relentlessly being on each other's side no matter what, and being a team handling life. I mean, I'll probably come back to that opinion multiple times throughout this podcast, but like you get a choice to actively participate in that relationship, and that choice is going to be difficult some days and not difficult at all on other days. um but it's up to you to make the decision every day to make it work.
Since I'm not able to in my best man speech at your wedding, I would just like the people to know that I am Christina Devon's designated mediator for any and all fights or disagreements between the two of them. And I'd like to say I'm pretty impartial.
As a family law attorney, what is your opinion on the statement, you can't love someone until you love yourself?
I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't know if it's going to be, I don't know if there is a thing as like a perfect love, but it may not be the most healthy love that you have for someone if you can't recognize and love yourself to begin with. Cause sometimes you could kind of project some of your insecurities and stuff on someone else and, kind of make them out to something they're not and have like an artificial image of them that you love or the thought of something that you love. So I would disagree with that.
I think I actually agree with it. At least not like absolutely. I'm sure that there's exceptions and exceptions to the exceptions, but I'm of the opinion that your happiness is not someone else's responsibility. Meaning, I just feel like um, so many people oftentimes place their identity in their relationship without doing the work beforehand to not love themselves. I think it's hard. Like it's a difficult task loving yourself regardless of who you are. Um, but it's also not someone else's job to make you love yourself or make you realize that you love yourself or to make you happy. And I think it's an unrealistic burden to enter into a relationship like thinking that that is your identity in that they're responsible for how you feel. Like I think if you don't do the work to be a happy, independent person prior to going into a relationship, that it's just gonna set the foundation of the relationship as an untenable expectation on the other person.
I agree with that, especially the part where you're saying that some people may like make their own whole identity that relationship and not able to do something on their own or be apart from others and find out what they're interested in, stuff like that. But even if that was the case, I do think they are capable of loving someone, just
Yeah.
getting
I
at the so. But like you were saying, it may not be the. I mean, it feels weird trying to say it's not may not be the most healthy, maybe the most healthy, whatever. Who knows?
yeah,
But
I think it's gonna be a more rockier relationship probably than otherwise.
all right, this is a good one for a guy that's about to get married. Never go to bed angry. Good advice or pressure that backfires.
Well, if Christina is watching and listening to this, I would agree with it. Um,
Yeah, brother, you're cooked.
but if she's not, then I I don't know. I think not even to get into genders, I think some people are more in tune with their emotions and other people are less in tune with their emotions. I think the former is the kind of person that does not want to go to bed angry because it's just going to become a bigger issue versus the latter is probably just going to be fine sweeping it under the rug. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Because it's not that I go to bed angry. It's just that I could have a disagreement and still sleep fine at night if I don't address the underlying issues. But I think that you're more in tune with your emotions than I am. So I'm curious to see what you would say.
I mean, this is another one that's trying to deal in absolutes. Like, never go to bed angry. I'm, I would say by not going to bed angry, it maybe will try to give you more of a chance to work things out that night to where things don't fester and like a deep, almost a hatred or dislike of the person doesn't like fester inside of you if you start holding enough stuff in. But also there could be points where there's just a ton of back and forth and no progress is being made and no productive communications are happening. And sometimes going to bed and like waking up the next morning when like emotions have settled down is better for the situation or relationship as a whole. So once again, I'm gonna go with it depends for 400, Alex.
Who's Alex? Is that the person
Correct.
on is that the new person that's on?
No, that's the former host.
Oh, okay. All right, my turn. If it's meant to be, it'll be. What are your thoughts on that? Does effort matter, or is fate a much larger uh a much larger element than we normally acknowledge?
I think effort matters. So I don't have much more to add on that one. I think effort
All right, next
is gonna
question.
matter. Like if you want something to work, like not many things are just gonna relationships or anything else in life are just gonna all fall into place perfectly with no effort.
Oh, wouldn't it be nice if they did?
It, it really would. What are your thoughts on it?
I agree with you, but I also think there is a line between trying to make something work and like just wasting your time and energy on the wrong person.
I think you're right. Like there's a difference in trying to make or effort, putting effort into making something work versus trying to force something to work when it's not going to. I agree with that. But I think
Yeah,
for something to work, it's not just going to fall in place. You've got to put effort into it.
yeah.
All right. The one that got away. Does this person actually exist or is it a myth we tell ourselves?
Oh, I think that this is one that has particularly been perpetuated by like Nicholas Sparks books and rom-coms, romance movies where like or perfect examples is Hallmark movies where you've got this guy and girl from a small town. The guy goes off and or no, the we'll say the girl goes off, she becomes this hotshot journalist or reporter or whatever. And a
In a
story
big
brings her
city,
yeah, yeah, in a big city, and then a story brings her back to her hometown 10 years later where she runs into her high school sweetheart. She's also engaged to another man in the big city at this time.
and the high school
Where,
sweetheart always owns a bakery, a Christmas shop, a
yes,
Christmas
sir,
tree store,
you
a
know it.
Christmas tree photo. I've
You
seen
know it.
probably all of them on Carla's TV in the living room whenever December hits. Even after, like if I went to her house right now, if she's not watching like some live TV, it may be a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
Like if there's a streaming service for Hallmark, Carla's got it.
Yeah, I used to always say to my mother, "Why do you watch these if you know exactly what the ending's gonna be?" Only for me to learn the wise and sage advice that it's not about what happens, it's about how it happens. So I think if you're to go off of those Hallmark movies, then the thing, or you know, that the one that got away is true. But I think when you get into real life, if you subscribe to that belief, then it's that that is more about obsession than it is love. I think being human is being able to let go and let live. Um, and so I don't know. I mean, it's difficult. I think there are people who potentially. I think this is a question later on, but you know, um, what's that saying? It's like wrong time,
Yeah,
right
something along
person,
those
or
lines.
right person, wrong time. Yeah, I think that could be construed as the one that got away, but at the same time, like if you find someone else who you end up marrying, there's no reason to obsess over this person. I think that obsession might stem from thinking the grass is always greener on the other side. So like, oh, if I had just married Sean from high school instead of Bob, my life would be 10 times better or whatever. But I think that's a very unhealthy uh, frame of mind to fall into in a slippery slope.
I'm right there in the same boat with you on this one.
Is there any one that got away from you, Austin?
Bro. I've actually never dated anyone. My parents didn't allow me until I reached the ripe age of 30. So I've got 2 more years to wait.
Okay. That's a good answer. I've been dying to ask this question. I wanted this to be the first question, but I knew that we had to build up to this one. Do star signs actually matter in a
I don't think you're
relationship?
gonna like my answer. No, because I don't know anything about star
If you
signs.
say
Like I don't know enough about them.
no, that's my answer. I think that's most guys' answers, but uh just to like paint a little bit of a picture, I once worked with a girl at Starbucks who, and this is not about dating or anything. I just remember my first day at Starbucks when I was getting trained. I walked in, met her, and she was like, "What's your star sign?" And I said it. I was like, "I'm an Aquarius." And she was like, "Oh, you and I are not going to get along then." And I think that is the first thing that comes to my mind uh when people judge their relationships based off of star signs. And I know there are girls out there that it's like they probably would not date a certain man if their star sign was, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, whatever. And so um
So in that
what
sense, I
I
would
guess
say
a
they
better
actually
question
they do
is,
matter. Because if it matters to one person in the relationship, it's going to end up affecting that relationship. I would say to me personally, no, but I could see how like some people probably put a lot of weight into that, so it would end up affecting a relationship or mattering at least in their mind because it could influence how they view the relationship.
what are your thoughts on more like science backed personality tests? Like, do you know what
Yeah,
the Enneagram
I'm in the
is?
same boat as I with the star stuff.
You don't think that like science being involved doesn't give it a little bit more credibility, at least?
I mean, I'm also not going to put myself into a box of how I answer a question on a given day on one of those Enneagram tests. It may not be the same answer at any given day on how I answer all those. So, like, it can give you like a rough idea of what your personality type or all that stuff is. But I think it's hard to say. I think it's hard for me to give more of a reliability standard to the science back one. I'm saying if going back to the effort, if you want to make things work, you can try. People are obviously going to have personality types or certain things that they can't get over, like clean house or a clean person versus dirty person. Like those are some things that are going to be hard to get over. And like, I guess that could go to the science backed personality types. But then I'm also not going to say, send me your anagram report after a first date, see if we can move forward.
Well, I would hope that if you're going to do that, you would at least do it before the first date. save some time and energy.
No, I'll get a free meal.
Oh, okay. So you're not paying.
Cut that bad boy out.
I'm not cutting that out.
No,
That's
bro.
staying in. That's actually a good question. Do you um I'm inserting this myth. I don't have this one written down. Should men pay for the first date?
I'm not gonna say should or anything like that. I can only say what I personally do, and if I did not do that, my grandmother would beat my ass. Like just how I was raised. But then I also understand like the position that a lot of women are in where they don't want to be seen as dependent on someone and they want to maintain that independence. And I understand that, but I'm someone that will try to pay for a first date or any date. I mean, I tried to pay for your appetizer yesterday as your wedding gift.
Yeah, we split it 50-50. We split it 50-50 because I'm an independent
What are your
man.
thoughts on it?
You ever seen
Yeah.
Everybody Hates Chris? You ever seen Everybody Hates Chris? Like, what is it that his mother in the show is always like, I don't need this job, or she's like, I don't need whatever. My man's got two jobs. That's always a funny thing from that
But
show.
what are your thoughts on that question?
I've never not. I mean, but I like you said. I think if I were a woman, I would understand not wanting to feel dependent on someone else. At least if you're not like formally or officially dating, like if it's just a date to kind of dip your toe in the water and test things out, and this person was a stranger 24 hours ago, like, yeah, I would not want to feel dependent on this person. I'd want to pay for myself. I think it's maybe a little bit different when you're officially going steady or whatever the kids are calling it these days. Um, then it's like, yeah, you can pay
Oh,
for my meal.
1000%. I'm that way.
Yeah,
I'll be dependent at that point.
the dependent spouse.
What we got next? Love languages, scientifically valid framework, or trendy pop psychology?
It's actually kind of funny because Christina and I had to fill out something for our wedding officiate, and this was a question on there, like on their questionnaire about love
Before you
languages
go any further,
and
but
how they
tell me what
apply
both
in
of your
our.
love languages are.
I've never felt like either one of us subscribes to a single one or whatever. I mean, like, I'm not someone who typically needs words of affirmation. Going back to like, I felt like I did the work beforehand to be confident in myself and independent and not need words of affirmation. Um, I mean, both of us enjoy giving each other gifts. Like, I enjoy giving her gifts for Christmas or her birthday or whatever more than I enjoy receiving them. And I think she's kind of the same way. I'm. I think we're both quality time people.
I
Um,
agree with that.
I'd rather have I'm someone who would rather have, one night or two nights a week of quality time than just sitting there in silence doing nothing every night of the week or whatever.
I don't see either of you being
And
big
then
physical touch people.
what yeah, I mean, other than like we hold each other's hands in public, but it's not like any extreme level of PDA, public display of affection or anything. Neither one of us.
What else is there?
Am I missing one? Words of affirmation. There's words of affirmation, physical touch,
Quality time.
uh, the quality time.
Mm-hmm.
There's two more. Oh, gift giving was
What's the
one.
last one?
I'm looking it up. Acts of service. I think this one's big. This one, along with quality time, acts of service is probably the biggest one. To go back to what you said, I'm not a clean person, and she's someone who needs like a clean living environment. And so my acts of service is like forcing myself to spend an hour cleaning on Saturday and Sunday to keep the house, in tip top shape, or at least like up to her standard, because I'm very much someone who, when I live by myself, would just let everything pile up. So like cleaning is an act of service for me. I cook a lot for us. That I consider that an act of
I would like the
service.
people to know that I did live on
So yeah,
Devin's couch for a short period of time. We were roommates.
and I was dirty,
I mean,
right?
I'm also not the cleanest person. So,
It worked out well. This is a really good one. I hope that you have a good or a thoughtful answer to this one, other than just saying you don't know or whatever. Does sharing it's kind of two parts, really three parts actually. Does sharing the same religion or political affiliation actually um affect a relationship. And I want you to answer both for the political and the religion, but then I also want you to say which of those two do you think is more important? Meaning, like, if two people are married and one's a Democrat, one's a Republican, is that going to impact the relationship more than like someone who's Jewish marrying a Christian, or um, someone who worships is Muslim marrying a
I
Christian?
think it's dependent on the person. Because I know some people that I can speak to myself, it would not be a big issue for me personally. If someone believes different things than me, it wouldn't be a deal breaker. It wouldn't. But I do understand that there's people out there that think they feel strongly enough about fundamental beliefs that they have that they would not be able to move past it, and they need someone, or not need someone. They would like someone in their household that subscribes to similar beliefs. But I could also see how that causes problems down the road of having two total ends, separate ends of the political spectrum. Religion, I think this one may be more like personally. Still, it's not a. It wouldn't be an issue for me, but I could see people, especially subscribing to different holidays and like how important family is to certain religions, how the holidays would work out and spending time with families. I could see that and the scheduling of that being an issue in a relationship or a marriage. So to answer the third question, I would say the religion stuff is probably more important than the political stuff for a lot of relationships. Is that about the answer you thought I would give?
Actually, no, because maybe I was just projecting my own beliefs onto you, but I'm someone who thinks, in today's day and age at least, I think politics can be a more divisive element in a relationship than religion. I think there's a lot of culturally religious people, like they were raised in the church, but they don't go anymore, and so they're much more kind of mellow on those views. Um, but I think politics, especially, it's like that's a very much make or break belief system nowadays. And but for the religion, I think where that gets kind of dicey, and you and I see this practicing family law. I think I think when it comes to raising the kids, like what are we going to tell our kids about religion? Like, are we going to let them form their own opinions, or like, is dad going to bring them to church with him all alone on Sunday?
Are we going
Or
to
is mom
a
gonna
certain affiliated private school?
right, exactly. And I think in custody battles that it's not always a like a big thing, but I've seen it be a much larger issue than politics. Like I've never seen in a custody battle like, oh, our son's gonna be a conservative, or like we're gonna get a divorce or whatever. Like I've never seen that, but I've seen, someone wanting their child to be raised Christian or to be raised
Well,
Jewish or
going off of
whatever.
that, like not even the our son's going to be raised conservative, but kind of the I guess phenomenon currently of public school indoctrination versus homeschool. Like that's where I see it being
Yeah,
coming more into play rather than or kids can be raised conservatively, liberally, whatever else. But public school is where that manifests on the political spectrum. I feel like is are we going to school? Are we going to secondary school? Or are we going to homeschool and take them out of whatever that specific school system may be teaching? That's where I see the political stuff manifesting more so, like in custody stuff.
yeah. Well, and going off that, like the issue to me is that it seems like nowadays the lines are very blurred between the political and the religious, meaning like you say, like we read that case law on um whether or not it's okay to say a prayer after a football game or whatever, like a high school football game, if the coach can do a prayer, or like taking the pledge of allegiance out of schools so that they don't say it in the morning or whatever. On the one hand it's political, but because of the way that conservatives identify, um like they want like the one nation under God to be something that's instilled in their children or whatever, so it's both conservative and Christian, or not even Christian, but both conservative and like deist perspective. So I think
So
that's a good
going
point.
back to that about whether it actually makes relationships stronger or not, I feel like I'm going off me and you. I feel like we have a pretty strong relationship, even though disagreeing on a lot of the stuff. And I don't think
Yeah, yeah, we won't say we won't say on camera, but we are. I mean, I feel like you and I are on opposite sides of the spectrum in terms of politics, and it's not
I
even
think
really
you
a
and I disagree
factor.
on just about
I think
anything
if it was,
ever. And I say this every
yeah,
time.
yeah, I agree with that. I just think we're both kind of jackasses, so it doesn't really
I don't know.
matter.
It's I remember seeing a quote from Abraham Lincoln about this. That it's like in his cabinet, he wanted people who had different ideas than him, because in doing so, you don't get stuck in kind of this like echo chamber where all you're getting is affirmations of the same stuff. You get challenged on your positions and have to actually explain why you feel a certain way, why you think a certain way things should be done. Because I think like how I've had most of my growth, like since becoming an adult and not just kind of accepting what was given to me as a kid, is having conversation with people that I disagree with. And sometimes I am presented a point and end up seeing that point and realizing that's actually a more accurate way of what describing what I believe or think. Like I'm not someone who's going to be stuck in my ways.
But I don't think I've ever convinced you to come over to anything that I believe
No,
other
you
than
did
Red
on one of the
Rising.
podcasts. On one of the podcast
Fair
episodes, they're
enough.
like, "Yeah, I
Fair
think
enough.
that's a better way."
I also think law school is amazing. Uh, Definitely not from every perspective, but law school's amazing at making people much more open-minded and less willing to die on the hill of whatever it is that they believe. So you're not going to be dealing with the average human being if you're talking to a lawyer, because we've essentially been trained to see both sides to every
And
coin.
I think that is a weakness of mine. It's just very hard for me to like pick a position
Why?
and stick to it because I do a very good job of arguing against my own positions. I feel like
I agree. I'm also someone who I believe like if if you don't believe if you believe in nothing, you'll fall for anything. And I think the way that we both, see both sides of the argument constantly, like it makes it very hard for us to form concrete, like, yes, I will die on this hill for this belief or whatever.
I can tell you a
Um,
hill that I'll die on.
at least that's how I see it.
Helen Keller not
What?
being real. That's a hill I'll fucking die on.
She was real. I'm not convinced that she was blind and
Yeah.
deaf.
I think there's a real person, but the story, no shot. All right, let's get back to this.
There's just too many
We're way
inconsistencies.
behind schedule right here. Uh, age gap relationships. Is there a number that's genuinely too much?
I think there's a number that's genuinely too creepy. And that's like the 80-year-old and the 18-year-old. Like I think that's creepy, like where it's kind of obvious and unspoken, but you kind of know that a girl is dating someone who's on the cusp of passing away or whatever, so that she can inherit their fortune and can influence the elderly to put them in their will or whatever. I think like, stuff like 20-year-old age gaps. I mean, I don't really have a position on that. I think if it's if it's someone that you're able to make things work with, then great. I mean, like our coworker Jennifer is coming up. I'm not going to say a woman's age on this podcast, but she has like a 20-year gap,
That would have been a great
and
person to have on this
I've met her.
podcast.
I agree. I agree, and I'm regretting not asking her, but um, I've met her soon to be husband, and he's phenomenal. And they've dated for like 10 years, and like their relationship just works. But yes, I do think that there's a way that an age gap can be creepy, but it's only in the extreme.
What are your thoughts on Leo DiCaprio?
I think it's weird and creepy when someone makes a trend of it. Like it's almost like they will only date this age of a person, similar to Leo. But when it's like a one off, or like you date one or two people that are younger or older than you, I mean, I don't see any issue with that. Why?
No, that was just a specific like pop culture example that has been like kind of big recently. Where like as soon as one of his girlfriends reached the age of 25, he would quit dating, and that was
Yeah.
just something maybe think of.
I mean, I think we'd all like to see him date someone who's maybe 40. I think that would maybe reduce the stigma around him currently, but will that happen? I'm not. Probably not.
I can't wait for you to get sued for defamation and slander.
It ain't defamation if it's true.
Next one.
Oh shit, it's mine. All right. Does it matter if one person is a morning person and the other is a night owl in a relationship?
There's enough ways to work around that. Like just being considerate of someone whenever you're either like waking up early or going to bed late, I think is an easy way around that.
I think it actually makes the relationship better in some ways. Not because of the opposites. I think it gives each person their own like free time. And going back to love languages, like when you two do have quality time together, like that is that is higher quality because you're being intentional about it. But like if you get the morning to yourself, I could see that being a good thing or peaceful. Same thing with a night owl.
Should couples share financial habits?
I mean, I do think finances are a section where you probably can't make it work um, if like one person is a shopaholic and the other is all about saving money. I think that's kind of a recipe for disaster. But I don't think that that's some like going back to can people change? Like, I think you can certainly change or work on those habits. I don't think it's on your partner to change you. But I don't know. I mean, in terms of finances, it's kind of implied that if someone's a shopaholic, that could potentially be a bad thing for. I mean, we go back to family law. I can't tell you how many divorces I've done or equitable distribution consults I've done where like one of the partners, and it's not always the woman, like I've had cases where it's the man, they just have terrible spending habits and have created a bunch of marital
I
debt.
think having conversations in a relationship about this kind of stuff could could potentially alleviate a lot of the problems that could come. Like have a joint account and separate accounts, and have a joint account to cover all necessary expenses, and then separate accounts kind of do what you want with it if one party wants to save. But I think having a conversation with your partner could help a lot of those potential issues down the road.
What is your thought on when I think of finances or debt, someone's past not spending habits but debt? Well, I think of something that's really applicable or relatable today is our student loans. Entering into a relationship where one person maybe they didn't go to college, they chose the vocational route or went to technical school, and someone who has like $200,000 in student loans from undergrad being together.
Are you asking me like if that is or should be a consideration?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a financial habit. But I think it's an issue that people are dealing with today. That like probably the majority of the country is dealing with. I don't think it's always opposite. I think sometimes or a lot of the times it's two people with significant student loan debt entering a relationship with each other. So, I mean, I know it kind of goes back to talking to each other to make it work, but I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
I don't think it's something I've ever even considered. Is I wonder if this person's in a lot of debt, like getting into a relationship. But I mean, that is something that's going to be important. Is how much how much they're tacking along with it. Because I know whenever someone hears how much debt I'm in, they might be like, "Oh, absolutely not. I'm all out on this."
Yeah. Well, to be fair, you went to law school, so it's not like there's going to be a return on that investment that got you into debt. Or I'm just saying for any single ladies that are listening, he won't be indebted forever. All right, I'm gonna skip ahead to a couple
Let's just pick and
questions
choose some good ones
to
from here on out.
some. Let's go ahead and do. You go with four more.
Yeah,
To
that
me, to
works.
you. Curious to know your answer on this one. Do you think it's a red flag if someone has never been in a long term relationship by a certain age? Let's go with our age. We are both 28. So that's a pretty if you were to encounter someone of the opposite sex or the same sex. I'm not going to project onto you. Um and they had never been in a long-term relationship, would that be a red flag to you? And I think you should also define what you define as like long-term.
I would start off by saying I don't know if I would call it a red flag. Like that's something that immediately. I don't know. my thoughts are, I don't know if I call it a red flag, but I would call it concerning because I think the same way about people that haven't been in multiple relationships. You kind of don't know what a good or bad relationship looks like unless you've experienced it. People that haven't been in a ton of relationships, that's kind of the only experience they have to go off of. Uh, so I mean, long term, I would say what, 2 years? Is that?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you viewed it as like six
I
months
mean, I
or a
didn't go a
year,
year.
or I mean, I think a year is long enough. I think 6 months is not
I'd go a
super
year.
long.
It's not like an immediate red flag, but it is concerning because
Why?
there's things that you learn after someone after a certain, and like the year isn't just like a cutoff where all things come out after that point or before that point. But
What would you say is the age? What would you say is the age where it turns from less concerning to more concerning? Like we're 28 and you were thinking about 28-year-olds that had never been in a long-term relationship, but like what is that age where that turns over?
like going down, like what age younger than us is it not a real concern?
Yeah, like the earliest available age counting down.
I'd probably go 21 because not a ton of people may have been in a long relationship in high school and how serious are some high school relationships for a lot of people. So I think kind of whenever you get on your own in college is your first real experience to have for a lot of people your first real chance to have a long-term relationship with someone that is truly your own. If after because you go into college at around 17, 18, I pump it back to 22. 4 years.
I was gonna I was gonna say like 23, 24, because like you don't graduate college till 22. Let's say you move or have to get a job or whatever, move off to the big city to pursue that big hotshot journalism position that we talked about in Hallmark movies. But then again, like I think in some cases, if you have someone who's going to put their career over dating, you could easily extend that number. Um,
Now that
now that I'm
after
thinking
that, I think
about it.
25 actually might be the 25.
I think that's good. I'd agree with that.
Do you think it's a red flag if someone hasn't been in a long relationship or hasn't had multiple relationships by our age?
At 28, want to know what's wrong with them, or like not necessarily what's wrong, because that's kind of a rude way to put it, but it
What are the
like,
reasons why?
uh, yeah, like are they a weirdo, or like are they cheating on everyone? I don't know. There's just a million ways I could see that being very telling about this person.
Is it true that people tend to end up with someone who resembles a parent?
Oh, the old Sigmund Freud question. That's who said that, I believe, right? He said men look for women that remind them of their
The
mother
Oedipus
or something.
complex?
Yeah. I'm of the opinion, I think every most normal people are of the opinion, or at least going to say no to that they're not. But I mean, I think even subconsciously though, there's that thing where, so you're raised by your parents and you see the things that they do that you disagree with or whatever, and so you're actively trying to break that cycle and you want like a different life for your own kids. So you look for someone who's very much not like your parent or your parents. I don't know. I can't ever in good conscience say that Sigmund Freud was correct about that
Going
theory.
off what you just said,
But
how much have you thought about your parent relationship and kind of said, I want mine to be like this in that way, or I want mine to be different from theirs in this way, like in your own relationship? Because I can say, I don't know if I've ever thought about that.
I've thought about it a ton, like since high school. That's actually really strange or interesting to me that you've not, because I mean, like your parents are no longer together. I don't know if I can say that or if that's gonna. Yeah. So I mean, I would have thought that you would have like kind of at least psychoanalyzed or subconsciously thought like, okay, what did they do that I would want to do differently?
I mean, I was also in seventh grade, so I don't know how much attention I was paying to their relationship up to that point. Like, I kind of can think about it now a little bit, but I kind of value like my own relationship experiences and think about that more so than this is what my parents' relationship was like, and I want to do or differ from that relationship in my own. Do you have any specific examples that you care to share? Like, obviously, you
Um,
don't have to.
yeah, I mean, to go back to like the religion and political question, my parents have made it work, but they are not of the same politics or of the same religion, and I think that that did cause tension. I mean, for instance, you can imagine sitting down at a Thanksgiving table and like one parent wants to say grace before eating, and the other parent kind of like rolls their eyes, and you're sitting there as the kid, and you're kind of like, oh, this is really awkward. And then the parent that wants to pray will be like, Devin, do you want to pray for us? And it's like, oh, you just put a freaking
Yeah, it puts you
target
right
on
in the
my
middle of that
back.
bad boy.
Um, yeah. So I mean, like I said, I think you can make it work, and my parents did. Um, with effort or whatever, but do I want my children to kind of be raised in the same kind of household? Uh, probably not.
I think that's a good example.
But I did want to say, have you ever seen, going back to your question about resembling a parent, have you ever seen on, you don't have Facebook, but like Instagram or whatever, where someone will post a picture with their boyfriend or girlfriend and it's the first time you've seen them together or whatever, and they look like brother
Yes,
sister?
I have.
That actually is a phenomena that like I'm super interested in, because I've seen it probably like a half a dozen times where I'm just scrolling on Facebook and I see someone post with their boyfriend or girlfriend, and I initially think, I'm like, oh, that's like brother sister, or well, I didn't know that Michelle had a brother, and then I look at the caption and it's her boyfriend, and I'm like,
They look
oh my
identical.
god, that, yeah, like they look like they were like separated at birth. So maybe there is some truth to Sigmund Freud, but you're not going
Yeah,
to catch me saying it.
I don't know. I just finished The Sopranos, and that's a big aspect of that whole show. Is that a lot of the Tony's relationships with women stem from his relationship with his mom, and the therapist kind of says
Oh,
it's because you want to fuck your mom. And he's like, and it's a common, or it's a, no,
he
she
used
didn't
that
use that
word.
word, but oh,
Uh,
she may have.
it was
Oh,
implied.
it was more than implied.
Do you think that social media use can uh, not predict, but do you think that social media use is indicative of how healthy a
Yeah.
relationship is?
Sometimes, like a lot of the most unhealthy relationships I've seen are people that on social media look the happiest. But if they are comparing their lives to other people's, I could see that affecting it. But I also don't know how many people that I know personally, like when they're scrolling, that's what they're doing. They're consciously or subconsciously doing at the time.
That's fair.
But what are your thoughts on it? This is a conversation that we've had previously.
It just depends on how you interpret the question, I guess, because like I think I think if you're someone who is is like a social media influencer, um and like you said, once, like, I think people do try to post their highlight reel and make life seem better than it actually is, while their real life is actually in shambles. But yeah, I don't think it should be a deciding factor in your relationship. um Go ahead and ask your last question.
These pulled back up. If they wanted to, they would. Is this sound advice?
I think it puts a very unfair expectation on someone who could still at the same time be a
That's
good partner.
very
Um,
That's very interesting for you to say as someone that used those exact words recently on an Instagram reel.
really?
Yeah.
Did I?
Whenever you're talking about writing your romanticy book, you said ladies is
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
just
No, I
saying.
know.
That's why I picked
It,
that
that was
question.
a joke. That was a
No,
joke,
it
though.
wasn't. It was real
That
life.
was a joke, though.
Devin Sue timing.
Yes, it was. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I never want to make. I don't want to make any of these questions about gender, but I feel like I've only heard this said from women and it actually be something that they mean, like they mean with their whole heart and they actually believe. Have you ever heard a guy actually say this and believe it?
No, I feel like most of the time when I've heard it, it has been a female speaking about a male, but also I'm to your initial answer, I'm in the same boat. That it is like an overgeneralization that, oh no, I'm trying to think out. Because I this is one I kind of go back and forth on. That goes back to the effort thing that we talked about early on.
Like you could easily end up perjuring yourself here. I just think that sometimes people prioritize stuff in a relationship and it's not the right stuff or what the other partner expects of them. But
You're kind of getting at the
yeah,
exact point that
that's
I was going to make, that if they wanted to, they would. Maybe the effort that they are making isn't the exact effort that you're hoping to receive. Like they're doing stuff that in their mind they're doing for you, but it may not be exactly how you want that effort to be shown, would be a point that I would make.
yeah, that's way better than what I said and gets at what I was trying to say.
Any closing remarks?
I think that creates a lot of frustration in a relationship too. Um because like you someone goes out of their way to do something that they think will make the other person happy, but it's just not on par with what they were wanting, you know. It just
Mm-hmm.
causes resentment on both ends of the spectrum. Yeah, closing remarks. The last question, did the chicken or the egg come first?
Let's think. Let's think this one through. The chicken or the egg come first? I'm going to go with the egg.
If you were to watch the new Netflix docuseries on dinosaurs, they would have you believe that the egg did in
Because
fact
it
come
was a different
first.
species that turned into an egg? No, that's
Did
literally
you
what my
see it?
exact thoughts just were. Oh my, surely it was not a chicken first. It was something that in an egg ended
Yeah,
up being a chicken. Damn.
the docuseries was like it spent the whole first episode on ancient reptiles. Like it differentiates dinosaurs from ancient reptiles. Apparently, ancient reptiles ruled the earth before dinosaurs. And then at the end of episode one, it pans in on this nest of eggs, and it's like, but what the ancient reptiles don't know. And it's Morgan Freeman's voice. So when you listen to my words, think of Morgan Freeman. It pans in on the nest of eggs, and it's like, but what the ancient reptiles didn't know was that they would soon be getting a contender for who will be supreme on Earth, and it's just like this clutch of eggs, and one of them like starts shaking or whatever, and I was sitting there like, but where the hell did those eggs
A
come from?
mutation of some sort. Like probably like a mixed species, maybe, or even just like a defect. They ended up in chicken. That was the exact process that I went through right then. I could have made my own documentary and sent it to Netflix.
But it wouldn't have had Morgan Freeman's voice.
You see any good quotes this week?
You're the quote man. That's that's your job every week, and you've been slacking.
Saved any good quotes?
I,
I'm gonna do a quote from the book I just finished because there were a ton at the end.
that'd be good, actually.
All right, you ready? This is a good one. Without grief, love would be meaningless because it is impossible to truly love something that cannot be lost.
I don't know why, but the first thing that my mind tried to do was disprove that. Like I was trying to think of things that you can't lose that you can also love, but I can't think of anything.
I mean, that's deep.
I agree.